off and the clock has started.
Roger, 0G, and I feel fine.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 12 of Relationships Through the Looking Glass. I am so excited to have the two guests I have today. We have Victor with the Liquor Talk podcast, and we have Marco with Hear Me Out podcast. And these two gentlemen are going to sit with us, me and Nicole, and talk about post-traumatic growth. You heard me, post-traumatic growth. A lot of people are very aware of what post-traumatic stress is, but we're going to talk about the growth that can come out of these types of relationships and really cover the areas on how to address this when you're going into new interactions with individuals. So to get started, we're going to go ahead and just learn a little bit more about our guest. I'm going to hand the mic over to Victor, and he's going to tell us about his podcast, what he has going on, and how you can interact with him, and then we'll learn more about Marco. So go ahead, Victor, and let us know where we can find you, your platform, and why you think this conversation is important to couples about healing past a traumatic experience.
All right. First of all, thank you, Michelle, for having me on Looking Glass again. I definitely appreciate it. Once again, my name is Victor. I'm the host of the Liquor Talk podcast, the podcast where we have real conversations while we sip on some liquor. There's a new episode that actually dropped today, by the way, so go ahead and check that out if you haven't done so already. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts at. So go ahead and check out that new episode. Fresh new episode dropped today.
Awesome. That's awesome. And that's what I'm going to be listening to tonight when I drink some liquor. That sounded so funny. When I drink some liquor, some wine. Marco, why don't you go ahead and tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, your platform, your podcast, and what you have going on.
What's up, world? It's Marco the Prince here, the host of Hear Me Out podcast, resigning in the Peace Up A-Town Down. I got a lot of shit going on right now, but yeah, I've recently had a creative block, so I've just been working on that and just trying to knock down that wall. But if you're interested on listening to my podcast, you can find it on all streaming platforms under Hear Me Out. Yeah, and we will be back up and running in September, so be on the lookout for that.
Awesome. And we're so happy to have you both here. And we're going to say hello to my co-host today, Nicole. How have you been? How's your week been going this week, Nicole?
So far, so good. I can't complain. Glad to be here.
Well, as always, I'm glad you're here with me to go through these murky waters we're about to discuss, to get on the other side. So the term post-traumatic growth. So like I mentioned earlier, post-traumatic stress is something that a lot of individuals are very aware of and know very clearly what that term means. But there's something that can come out of a traumatic experience, and that's growth. And a lot of people don't pay a lot of attention to that. So the point of this podcast in this episode is to talk about how this term can allow you to look at your traumatic experiences in a different way and to retrieve the growth that comes from it as you move on to other relationships. So I'm going to start by asking our two gentlemen on our panel today, when we talk about painful endings, and obviously the podcast is Relationships Through the Looking Glass, so our focus is primarily on relationships, but you all can give any example that you have. Have you ever experienced a painful ending in your life that you were able to retrieve benefits from or growth lessons from that you were able to bring on to previous or future connections and relationships? So I'm going to start with you, Victor. Have there ever been any painful endings that you've experienced that you actually, when you look back at it, say, you know what, I became a better person because of that?
Honestly, I could write a book on it because I've had a lot of these. But the most recent one I've had happened like earlier this year, where me and someone broke up. And the one thing I learned is you got to learn to fight. Sometimes you got to fight for the relationships, fight for your bonds, and never give someone space, because when someone asks for space, they're plotting and planning to leave you. And also, you never let someone leave your presence without them knowing how you feel about a certain situation. It's like you let them say their piece, but you got to come back with your piece. So that's the biggest thing I learned is like you got to speak up sometimes, and you got to speak up at the right times because sometimes we speak up and it's just too late.
Right, right. And that's when you have that what if feeling, right? That what if, like, what if I would have said this then, or what if I would have done this then, or that decision I made, gosh, I really wish I didn't do that. So being able to verbalize that can kind of assist when processing through. So those are very good statements. And how about you, Marco? Have you had any experiences with painful endings that now when you look back at it, you're like, whoa, I kind of grew from that?
Girl, you want my TED talk today?
Let's do it.
No, I definitely have. I'm hopeless romantic when it comes to like relationships. I feel like I deserve love. I feel like everybody deserves love, no matter who you decide to love. But I've had some very traumatic endings that I definitely have grew from. Um, it came to the point where I'm just like, fuck love, fuck everybody that's ever trying to like talk to me. Like I don't care. But like I say this on Hear Me Out all the time. I went to therapy. Like I am a big therapy advocate and I just had to make sure that I wasn't crazy. And in some situations, I might just be overthinking or crazy or whatever the case may be. But like therapy has helped me like heal wounds that I didn't know was wounds. So yes, took a while, but I'm here and I'm back, and it takes everybody just different times. It's not gonna happen tomorrow, next week, or next month, but you got to work on yourself before you can love again.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you are an advocate for mental health. And that's kind of our two pillars with this podcast is mental health and relationships. And they do go hand in hand. Like if you have a poor or struggling mental health aspect going on, it's going to impact your relationships. So we definitely need to be aware of that. So thank you so much for bringing that up. And Nicole, I'm going to pull you in now. When we're talking about painful endings, what is your experience when it comes to painful endings and the ways that you can look back and say, wow, that was painful and it sucked while it was happening, but I did grow from this and this is what I've learned.
So, yeah, like the gentleman said, I also have that same experience of like dealing with painful situations and then being able to reflect on the situation to see where I played a part. And so, in playing, like being able to reflect back on those relationships, I saw what was missing and then how that prevented me from getting what I wanted, if that kind of makes sense. So I've done a lot of growth, not only with romantic relationships, but also with professional relationships as well. Just being able to say that I've learned something from those experiences and, able to move forward.
Right, right. And I wonder, I'm going to ask you all because for me, the way a painful experience ends kind of has an impact on uh how long you can see the growth from it. Like I know for me, I would say I've had three very pivotal painful endings when it comes to relationships. Two were slow bleeds. um so it was kind of like you were seeing what was coming. The writing was on the wall, but you just wouldn't let go of it, right? You saw it was coming, but it was just like until you bled out. And then I had one where it was straight Mortal Kombat fatality, heart yanked out the chest type of deal. And it's a situation where with where the slow bleeds were, I could kind of see the growth elements happening as I was going through it versus the Mortal Kombat attack where I was out for the count for a while. Like there was no trying to see anything positive because it was like, what the hell just happened? What happened? Right? So I'm gonna throw that back to you all. Is how the relationship ends. Does that play a role on how easy it is to see the positives with it? And that's for anybody who wants to jump in.
I'm gonna say yes. So one of my relationships ended like they did some shit, and I was like, you know what? That's just like the last fucking straw. Like we've been together for years. Like you already know what makes me mad. You know what pissed me off. I'm just over it. So like I was obviously upset in the moment, but I took my time and separated myself from that person, didn't talk to that person, blocked them on all social media, not because I hated them or anything, but just in that very moment, I just didn't want to see them. I didn't want to see anything that we have created. I don't want to see any of their family. I didn't want to see any of the signs. I just needed a blank canvas. And now like going back into the relationship world, like I see kind of like I'm not gonna say like I fucked up because I'm always right, but like I see where we fucked up,
Right.
like as just two humans, like I'm sure we could have talked it out and like went to therapy and did all that shit, but I'm also like I'm a what am I trying to say? I'm a real advocate for like if this is how you feel right now, you just need to go ahead for it and just end it. It's not gonna get better because you kept trying and trying and trying. And the thing for me is that like if I keep talking about something over and over and over, like well, in the past, sorry. So if I keep talking about something over and over and over, I'm hurt. Like
Yeah.
and it's just a dark cloud over me. But now that I've went through therapy, like I can talk about shit that I've been through and like laugh about it and like my friends can make jokes about it and it don't hurt me personally. Even like the current shit that I'm in. Like I don't know if you guys follow Amanda Seals on Instagram, but a couple of weeks ago, maybe I'm not even gonna say weeks because everything is just running together. But during the summer, she posted this video about recovering from things that's traumatizing. And basically, what she said is what she does is repeats to herself and says, "This is not my story. This is not my story. This is not my story." So, whenever I do feel like anxiety or depression come in, I just have to sit, smoke a little weed, get a little drink, and just be like, that's not my story. Like, I'm not even going to wish that in my area, in my universe, or anything amongst me. That's not me. That's not my story. That's not what I want.
So
So
like changing the narrative, changing the
yeah, just
narrative.
changing the narrative because we
Right.
can easily be like, oh, forget you and just keep talking about the thing. Okay, you know what? It happened, but that's not my story now. I
Right.
just got to grow from it and I just got to talk about it and I just got to look towards the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Victor, how about you? Does the way the relationship ends play a role for you on how fast it is going to be for you to say, "Oh, I see where I grew from that," or "I see where I had a hand in that," or if I'm even ready for a relationship? Does how it ends for you have any factors on that or play any role in that?
Honestly, it don't matter how it ends, whether it can end good or bad. I'm already like, you know what? Um, you just get to that point of you tell yourself this too shall pass. You know what I'm saying? Meaning it's just temporary. It's whatever, and just move on from it because when sometimes when certain relationships end the same way in the same pattern, you're like, you know what? It don't matter if it's good or bad. We're not together no more, so it don't really
Gotcha.
matter. At the same time, we're gonna heal the same way, and we're just gonna build from it. We're gonna grow from it. Yeah, it might take you a little 24 hours. That you're like saying, "Why is me? Why is this happening to me?" But then you'll just wake up. You'll get over it because hey, the sun's still gonna shine, and you still gonna have to deal with
You are a
life.
beast. Only
Yes.
24 hours? Man,
I was
look.
like, let me tell
I was
you, it took
out
me
for
9 months.
what? I know, right? I'm like 24 hours.
No,
You must be an Aquarius.
the reason I say 24 hours is because it was happening frequently a lot. It happened to me a lot, so I became numb to it.
Mm. Well, Victor, that makes me sad. I don't want you to be numb to
Yeah.
it.
Did you start looking at yourself in the mirror and like not saying like you were the problem, but like laying like a map out, like, okay, we went wrong here. This is what we could have, or this is what I could have did differently. This is what this person could have did differently. Not with that person, but just going forward in like new relationships.
Yeah, I did. I did say that myself. I either talked to a close friend of mine who's a female who will tell me right where I went wrong at, and sometimes I've even like picked up on things. It's like I know one situation. I just was being a Florida nigga. I'm like, I'm just gonna be straight up about it. There was one time it's like it went wrong because the chick told me she didn't want to meet up because of the hurricane, because I think a hurricane was coming by, and she was like, "Oh, so I saved it." And I'm like, "Are you serious?" And my mindset is, we got this window of time to meet before this storm gonna come. It's like I'm one of those people. I make things happen no matter what. Nothing's gonna stop me. So, and it's like, and the one thing I learned from that is I can't expect me out of people. So that's why I
Yes.
gotta learn to have
Yes.
patience. You know what I'm
I
saying?
I love that. You can't expect you out of people. My therapist told me that years ago. Like,
Absolutely.
You just can't. It's like you.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you the clap.
All right, all right. That's what it's sound effects.
But absolutely. And that's where we fall into cycles, because it gets to a situation of you're expecting yourself from other people. And when they can't meet that expectation, you're only hurting yourself, right? Because everybody's not going to give the level you give, and and not in the same ways. And that's where that whole love languages and all that other stuff comes into, because we might process and receive things differently. So if you go into something thinking, I'm doing all of this for this person and I'm not getting anything in return, there goes that whole expectation, and how expectations play a role on things as well. So, and that's something I had to learn with my painful endings. But before I get to my sordid hell, Nicole, were there anything that you were able to kind of look at where you grew from it, no matter, if it was a slow bleed type of situation or it was an off with your head type of situation?
The majority of my situations were definitely expecting myself from the other party. And I was definitely like tending to their needs and being what I thought was open with them. And I was expecting the same. In my responsibility was giving more of myself, like too much of myself to the situation, and not allowing the other person to fill that space and to give of themselves as well. So like moving forward, the lesson is to allow someone else to meet me with that same energy, as opposed to go all in and then get nothing and then I'm hurt in that continuous cycle. So I've learned that's one of the lessons that I've learned the hard way. And the majority of the time, you continue to give and give and give and give and give, and you're not reciprocating that energy. So it tends to be a painful ending of, I gave so much and got nothing. And so to learn from that, for me, I have to take a break and heal and reevaluate, and then I can start looking at the lessons, because as soon as it ends, I'm just hurt. Like all aspects of pain just keep resonating. And so once I can unpack that first, then I can start saying, oh yeah, here's what I did wrong, here's where I messed up, etc. So the healing before the reflection of my contribution, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And you're probably a great one to speak on, because you've seen the transitions that I've had to go through, where again the slow bleeds, they were more, you kind of saw it coming. It's kind of like somebody who has a terminal illness and it's coming. It's just allowing that time to happen versus when it's just snatched from you. And for me, the one that happens without warning, that took me out for a long time. And my long time is about a month. I was out for about a month and a half, where I was just like, I don't want to deal with nobody. I hate men. Men freaking suck, even though I want y'all on the podcast. But I was just not feeling I wasn't feeling it. Like, if anybody was trying to show advancement or anything towards me, I was just like, blah, I don't want it. because it was more of trying to heal the wound. And it's kind of like when you get injured, you don't want anybody poking at that injured spot. You just need time for that spot to heal. And then only then I was able to look back and say, okay, these are the areas that I probably should have done differently, or, maybe I should be more responsive in these areas and less responsive in those. And it's not the answer is not shutting down, because that's my go-to is shut down. Like, I will shut down and go into a cocoon and people won't even know I exist. So I had to learn how to not do that. But it's a self-protection, right? It's self-protection. So my next question is, and we were kind of hinting to it, and I'm gonna start with Marco first on this one. How do you know you have healed or you're doing the healing? How do you know when it's actually happening? Because you hinted to it a little bit earlier, because I do the same thing. But I'm gonna let you kind of go a little bit deeper and unpackage that. Like, how do you know when you're actually healing and getting past the pain?
Mm. Michelle, I like you already. So,
Yes.
um, okay, so we're about to unpack a few things. So, 2 years ago, I was engaged. Long story short, we ended it, and I was just like, "Fuck niggas!" Like I was on my Lawrence shit. I was just out here, just being a fuck boy. Like no emotions. What we do is what we do, but let me just go about my day, type of ordeal. And I was like, you know what? We shouldn't be doing this. Like I had to look myself in the mirror and just look and be like, you better than this. You deserve more. Like you deserve to be loved. You deserve to be in a relationship. And I'm not gonna say like it was one single person that told me like, oh, you deserve to be like treated better or X, Y, and Z, but like I had to come to reality with myself. Like it was a point in my life where I was just like, is this what you really want to do in life? Like just be single. Like this is like I don't know who you are. Like literally looking myself in the mirror. Like I don't know what you're doing and what you got going on, but this is not what we have planned. Like this is another alter ego that you just need to kill right now and go about your life. So what makes me heal is really just getting back to myself. Like doing things that I love. Like when I was healing, I created Hear Me Out. And during my like creative block, like I went back and listened to all my episodes and oh, this is the first time I'm ever saying this on air, but like from my first episode until today, like I can hear how hurt I was from back then until now.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
and I'm never gonna take that person a year and a half away from me. But I was like, you really hurt. But I was
Yes.
okay with it because I had to get it out. Like
Right.
I felt like I didn't have anybody to talk to but my friends and therapists. But like I've never been like a number person, but when I look at how many people listen to like just me venting and just going off, I'm like, damn, somebody is really out here relating to what I'm either going through or they've been through it or maybe I'm their calm space right now for like the next hour. So I would definitely say like Hear Me Out was like therapy just in my house, just hit record and just go. Like most of the episodes, I just freestyled and I just had to get it out. And I,
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
developed, I developed a new love for myself. Like after learning, like okay, yeah, you hurt, like, but when you listen to these things, like, yeah, it might sound like shit talking to other people, but I can pinpoint things and like, oh, that was that situation and that was that situation, but I'm not there anymore. I have bypassed that. So,
It gives you a way to look and see how far you've come.
mm-hmm.
And that in itself is empowering, because I know, and I do the same thing with you, like you, a lot of podcasts have been birthed from pain. There's been so many individuals that I've talked to and have had the pleasure to interview where a lot of podcasts have been birthed through pain. And it's a way of therapeutic healing. But for me, too, the voice, hearing your voice back and hearing the pain, because a lot of people don't see my emotion because I'm very stoic to a lot of people. But those days when I'm going through something and I'm crying and I need to get it out to somebody, but I don't know who can receive me at that level, I'll put on my recorder on my phone and just start talking. And then when I go back and listen, like you said, when you hear that and you're like, I don't ever want to be that person again. I don't ever want to be that person again. So I 110% on that.
I have a question, Marco, and I saw Victor nodding his head in agreement. When you, in the moment of recording that, were you aware of the pain that you were in? Like, could you hear the pain, as you're speaking it, or you were only able to hear after, meaning when you went back to go listen?
So have like 50%. So like depending on the topic, like love, I did not know I was hurt at that point. I did not know what I was unpacking and all that. But like on some of my episode I have talked about like family trauma, like growing up without a father, and like me being the black sheep of the family. Like everybody think I have all this imaginary millions of dollars, but I don't. So I feel like they just put me in this little corner. But like stuff like that, like family, like I knew I was hurt at that point and I just needed to talk. But like my love life, I didn't. And I was just venting. But like going back, I'm just like, oh, nigga, you was hurt. Like, I don't know who hurt you, and I ain't never said his name on air, but like, yeah, he put you through some things.
Right.
Like when you hear other people's pain in their, when you hear people talking and you just, that person is in pain. Like that's what my experience is now. Like back then I didn't quite know it, but now I'm like, ooh, that person has some pain. But yet if you mention it to them, that's when the ego kicks in and it's like, no, I'm not hurt. It's like, I hear it.
I'm thinking about that.
Yes, exactly. That is that, the heart of steel or the heart of ice. And it's like, no, I don't care how hardcore you are, you're hurt and I hear it.
And you got to process it out somehow. So it's like, look, if you're not going to do it with somebody, do it with yourself. And it could be journaling, it could be whatever, but I know audio, I know hearing it back, it allows me to say, I am not that person anymore. And I'll be damned if I ever want to go back into that, because it hurts to hear yourself. It hurts to hear yourself. And I'm gonna hand it over to Victor. How do you know that you've healed past a pain or a hurt or healing past it? Are there any things that you have done to help that, or is there anything that when it happens you're like, okay, yeah, I know I've gotten over that hump?
Well, this is the part where I say thank God for siblings, because I find this is gonna sound crazy. I find just getting drunk and talking shit with my sister, who sometimes she'll be going through the
I
same
need to meet your
issues with
sister because
men.
you've talked about your sister a lot. We need to have her
Yeah,
on a podcast.
sometimes me and her just hanging out and talking shit about certain situations, that actually helped me get over it. Like I remember one time, it was a Sunday, we were watching a little bit of football, and a girl I had eyed, a girl I had, like, I consider her the top dog, like, of all the girls I'd pursue. She hits me with the "I just see you as a friend." Man, the next thing you know, I think that killed my appetite a little bit, but there was a couple bottles of liquor. Needless to say, those bottles were demolished. Me and my sister were going in. She was going in on the men not acting right, and I was going in on all these women. I'm like, if I'm good enough to be a friend, shouldn't I be good enough to be a lover? I'm like, what the hell are y'all are not seeing? And it just got frustrated, and that was my coping mechanism. Because the one thing I've learned about me is I could be going through a whole lot of shit, but the podcast world probably would never know it, because I'm like Michelle, I'm stoking it, and I just had that mindset of I'm about to give y'all this episode, even though I'm in pain and there's some things I'm just not certain
That part,
about. So
absolutely. There's been so many episodes that I have been broken on the inside. Nicole knows, but when I turn it on, it's showtime. And then when I turn it off, I'm back to that pain, flatlined, hardly any emotion. because I'm just trying to make it to the next day. Because sometimes the hurt is so intense, you are just trying to make it to the next day. So I'm gonna hand it over to Nicole. Like, how do you know when you have healed or you're healing past the situation?
Well, first of all, I do want to say, Michelle, when you put down those creative, painful podcasts and I listen to them, I'm like, whoo, they are so magical, and like the pieces just fall together and you put it so eloquently together. So I do have to
Oh,
say
thank
they're so
you.
powerful. And it's inspiring for me, like, whoo, okay, all right, I'm gonna get up. If she could do that because she's been down and laid it down, I can do it. That's one. And two, how I know that I've healed past the situation is, one, if I could talk about it and I don't, no emotion, I don't get pissed off, I don't get sad, I don't get teary, none of that. So that's one. Two, when I'm an overthinker, so sometimes I'll find myself like, oh, wait, hold up, I haven't thought about that person or this situation in some time. Like, I forgot about that. Oh, yeah. And I missed details, forgot details. Like, I don't know when that was. I don't know how old I was, whatever. I've pretty much healed past that. That's an indicator to myself. And then also, I don't have contact with the majority of the people that I've dealt with. But if I do catch wind of that person, I'm not emotionally phased. I'm not like, oh, again, I don't get pissed. I don't get sad or anything. So that's how I know I've pretty much healed past the situation, is if I also can have contact with the person and I'm not persuaded one way or the other.
That's a big one. That's a big one. And I'm pretty sure Victor and Marco can stand point on that one. When you think you have healed past the situation and then you see that this person's with somebody else and you're like, hold up, what the hell? Like I'm like, I thought that part was resolved. So what is this? So yeah,
Listen,
I can speak to that.
I honestly, I've come to laugh about it because some cases, the very next person, the women that done
They be
did me
straight
wrong,
garbage,
the
right? The
next
next
man
person is
got them
garbage.
pregnant.
Oh, they got them
You
pregnant.
said pregnant?
Even, yes, they got pregnant by a garbage
Damn.
person. I'm like, you know
Karma.
what? In my head, I'm like, that's karma. But in my head, I'm like, you settled for him? You had a baby
Oh
with
man,
him?
I call that you passed on the filet mignon for the dog food.
The trap. There you
Hello.
go.
I don't understand that. Why do
hold
you pass up on the filet mignon for some dog food, and then you're upset because they're dog food?
Yep.
And they show you that they dog food, and you still had a baby with them. What you think, having a baby's gonna change them?
That's something.
But at the end of the day, the true lesson is that's not my person. That's not my person. And I can see it now, like, okay, that trait would have never worked long term. You for sure would have cheated on me, and I would not have been happy in a long-term relationship. Thank you for showing me that. I swear I missed it. And I missed nothing, actually. I swerved that type of long-term being miserable.
But the challenge too is, in our logical mind, like, all that makes sense, right? And this is for all of y'all. All that makes sense in our logical mind. Is that freaking heart space that hurts? Like, we know they're probably going to somebody who's garbage. We know they're probably going to somebody to fulfill something else. But in our heart space, that joke still hurts. Go ahead, Marco.
I was gonna say, after we're done, I really don't care. Like, I'm gonna hurt in privacy, but
You're like
again,
Nicole. You're like Nicole. Nicole's that way too.
like, I'm gonna block you on everything. I don't want to see anything that you got going on. And the last person I dated, like, we actually ended off on good terms. Like, I presented the conversation. I was like, let's have lunch, X, Y, and Z. We had lunch, and I was like, look, I know we not together, X, Y, and Z, but what I want for you to do is find somebody that can't love you how I loved you. I think we had something really great going on. I was like, unfortunately, it just won't go past this. And, of course I was hurt while saying this, so I had to like hold back a little bit. But it felt good for me just to be the bigger person versus, let's call a spade a spade. When most black folks in relationships, oh, I don't ever need to talk to you again. I was like, you know what?
Right.
I want to do something different this time. Like, let's just have lunch and like, let's just call it peace. So even if if I do see you out in the streets, it's not as awkward. You know, like I can still
Right.
say hello, hi, okay, how's everything, and then go about my day. Versus there's that nigga again, and then my whole vibe's messed up, and I don't want to be
Right.
here. Like my friends, oh, there go your ex. I'm like,
Right.
you know, like I'm just like, let's try something new, and you know, it worked. Like it
Is
worked.
it possible? Is it more determined on like who that relationship is with? Because I know, like for me, and here's a little test for everyone who listens. I have had an ex on the podcast as a guest, and very few people know who it is. I mean, he knows who it is. Obviously, Nicole knows who it is. But there's an episode that I did with an ex, and you could not tell. You could tell if you knew us, but if you didn't, you couldn't tell. So anybody who wants to freaking figure it out, go ahead and let me know what episode it is, and I'll send you a prize. But that's a situation like you described. You don't want to have that awkwardness. Now, there's some other lying issues with that. I'm not gonna sit here and lie because that was a slow bleeder. So I'm thinking there was still some blood that was bleeding out when that was happening, because now there's no communication at all. But that individual we were able to communicate versus some exes in the past where, like you said, I don't want anything to do with them. So does it determine how that relationship was that would make that determination of you're going to continue to have an open ability to engage versus completely cutting them off?
Man, in my situation, I've cut everybody off. I can't think of a situation where an ex is actually sticking around because it's like if I see you in one way, it's like there's just no point in us being friends. It's like if it didn't work with us being together, or you weren't interested in me like that, there's just no point in me contacting you. You know what I'm saying? I might,
That's
there's
not
just no point.
healthy. That's not healthy.
We're gonna do a group hug with Victor.
Well, how are
No,
they gonna
I'm not
benefit me
saying you
though?
got to be friends. It's going to benefit you when you kill people with kindness. They told us that in elementary. Look, y'all might call me crazy, and I have not done this with too many people I dated, but like it was something about just being the bigger person and just having that conversation and just going on with my life versus holding on to this negative energy and being hurt and shit. Like it's okay to have a healthy negative conversation. Because
Right.
if we don't talk
Yeah,
about it, we're gonna
but
keep sweeping it under the rug after person after person after person, and then where do we grow as people?
that's true. But what if you never run to that person ever
And
again
you
though?
grow with the next person. I'm
So
not growing backwards, I'm growing forward.
what if we delete that person out of the equation and do it for you?
Yeah, and I usually do that by having a conversation with somebody I'm close to, like either a female friend I've known for years when I was back at FAMU, or my sibling, or some woman I'm friends with, and they'll be able to tell me, hey, and they'll help me grow from it. And also,
No,
yeah,
I,
Marshall.
I, I was no, I was gonna say this is a very transparent podcast. So like I'm looking at it from like a love standpoint, but when it comes to friends, I'm the same way. Like, oh, we ain't got nothing to talk about. I don't want to talk to you. Like, we good. If we see each other in the streets, nigga, you don't know me. Like,
So with
Like Trina said in that song, if you see me, don't
when
speak.
the person is an ex, like they don't fall into that friend zone,
no,
So
for me, no. I don't keep exes as friends. We
right,
don't
me
we don't
neither.
have any reason to talk, communicate because when I do find someone new, am I gonna introduce my ex to the new person that I'm dating? No, because that's completely messy overall. But
Absolutely.
if so say like we're
Yeah.
all in the same city and we just happen to go out and my ex happens to walk into the club. And I'm like, oh, that's my ex. Hey, how you doing? No longer than 3 minutes, because then it gets awkward after that. And we good. Like, but there's no reason to keep an ex around for a friend.
Yeah,
I
I
I
agree.
just don't see the point of it.
I agree. When I see an ex, I just keep it pushing like they're not there. So even if they were to walk in the club, I just like, for what? There's no reason for me to make an effort to engage.
I
I'm
don't know.
no
I guess
ill
I'm the
will.
odd
Just
man out. It must be my Aquarian
And
energy that I have. It depends on who the person is. Like if it's I don't even know how to explain it. If once I get past the pain of whatever happens, like if any of my exes that like the ones I explained on the podcast were going through something like life threatening or something, like I would be okay with them calling and saying, "Hey, I need," and I know I'm a Pisces, y'all. I'm sorry, but I guess because as a human, I just don't want to be like being evil human. Everybody's shaking their head.
Evil?
it's not
No, don't call me
necessarily
for advice
human.
because you fucked up. Like, no,
No,
like,
no, I definitely agree with
what?
myself. Because it's like I don't want to sit here and listen to you talk about you where you making mistakes at with this same person. Because in the back of my mind, I'm gonna be like, well, if you would have worked things out with
Oh no, no,
me,
no, no,
you
no,
wouldn't be
no,
going through
no,
this shit you're
no.
going
I
through
don't want to
now.
hear about the other chick. I don't care about that. I'm talking about like if somebody had a death in the family or something like that.
Too close to home. Because now you feel emotionally attached, and I'm comfort you when you're sad. And what if, hypothetically,
You're right.
what if
You're
I'm talking to
you're right.
someone? What if we're really serious? What if we're engaged? What if we're married? What would that other person think? Why the fuck you on the phone with your ex?
You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yep, that's exactly what they think. Because they gonna think something going on. Because people have that negative mindset. They automatically jump to conclusions and stuff. And what person would really, in their right mind, be okay with being friends with an ex?
Me,
I don't even care if you got a kid with the
No.
person.
Victor.
You said you're a Michelle, are you a Pisces, you said?
Yes,
but I am too.
am.
I'm a Pisces moon, and I don't
But
call me.
which Pisces are you? Like
I'm a Pisces sun. I'm a Sagittarius moon and a Libra rising.
okay, balance. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of all over. And I guess for me, it's more of the just like if somebody has a death in the family, I'll send you a card and I'm sorry. That's not
Michelle.
good. That's not
Michelle,
okay.
we need to
No,
have we
Michelle,
need to be friends, and like
we
you
need
can
to be
call
Victor
me.
Victor.
We can get some wine.
Man, I'm
And
trying to tell it.
Michelle,
Trying
you
to
It's
can't.
turning in.
You need to
But
burn the bridge. What did Justin Timberlake say? Cry me a river, but don't build that
Is this
bridge.
I
what?
feel
How
this
the
is an
song goes? Time
intervention.
to cut it.
Your
I feel
price
this
is
is an
way too high.
intervention.
You need to cut it. Cut it. Cut it.
Or it ain't nothing to cut
Hey,
the bitch
hey.
off. Hey.
But what
Yes,
about
no.
this perspective? I always think like if that person is calling you because, let's say they did have a death in the family, if I go and provide that emotional support, that person is not learning the lesson on how to emotionally tend to their own wound. I'm like taking that responsibility on myself. So for me, you need to learn how to emotionally deal with your own pain. You are no longer going to use me as a crutch. So that's why I
You're
kind
right.
of feel like, nah, man, you have your own stuff to go ahead and learn
I
how to,
like that,
Hello.
Nicole.
I
know.
feel that this was an
You just
intervention for
gotta
me.
Nicole
honestly
bars.
like. I know we just have these music references, but you just have to know better to do better.
Right. Absolutely right. That's
I'm
absolutely right.
not gonna rock a ex through their hard times, because would they do the same thing for me? And if they did, why aren't we together?
Ooh, hold on. Hold
Absolutely.
on.
Where's that horn?
I
Brr, 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 brr.
There it is. That's exactly what I was saying. Like they're not going to.
Oh, she got it.
I was like, hint,
You're
hint.
right.
Yeah, there's
Yeah, you
no.
guys are right.
I'm not going, and I genuinely look at it like I'm taking their lesson away from them. So they got to learn somehow to tend to their own wounds and not look to me for that, especially if I'm an ex.
You're right. You're right. I'm learning.
Exactly.
I'm learning.
Because I'm not calling you for nothing. So what the hell are you calling me
That's
for?
true. That's true. Tear. Okay, next question. Since I just been dragged. So all the lessons that we've talked about
Dragged
when
with
you're
love.
going in dragged with love, I know. When we're going into new relationships, how do you know when there could be a bump in the road that you might be falling back into some of the old patterns and how to address that to maintain that forward growth? So again, let me I'm gonna repeat the question. So when you are going into a new relationship, because I tell everybody all the time, relationships are the testing ground for healing. Like, you know, if you're doing the work when you get into relationships, because you will be triggered, and some things you think that you have gotten past, you find out that no, you haven't. So, how do you address that when you're in a new relationship and something triggers a previous wound to not bleed on the new partner? So, how do you address that? And anybody can kind of take that up.
You the devil, Michelle.
I know.
Remember that time I said we should be friends?
You
No,
have
I'm
to be
just
my
kidding.
Uh-oh.
I'm just
friend
kidding.
Yeah,
No,
Marco, that
I'm
was
just
now. I
kidding.
fast.
know.
No, the reason I say that because last night, this happened to me, and I just had to say, like, this is not my story. This is
We
not
all
my
Pisces are
story.
all psychic, right? You know that, right? Pisces are all
Oh,
psychic.
I
I
dealt with
felt that
one
energy
Pisces,
from you.
and I would never deal with a Pisces again.
Ooh,
I'm a Cancer, so it's just two emotional
wait,
people.
that's a good match.
No,
That's a good match.
not men. Okay, let's get back. Let's get back on track. No, but like last night. Oh, this is getting real personal. Um, last night, my partner wanted to sleep in our guest room. You know, and it kind of triggered me because I just don't like sleeping alone. I just don't understand like if we're together, we need to sleep together. We need to cuddle like every night. That's my mentality. So it was triggering to me. And, you know, I was a little frustrated for like 5 minutes, said what I had to say, and then I just went to sleep. But while I was going to sleep, I was thinking, I was like, okay, Marco, if this triggered you, you need to figure out why. You need to understand that, yes, they might want their own space, but also, fuck them. Take this opportunity to get this whole bed to yourself. Like, use as many pillows as you want, use as many covers as you want, and like embrace this very moment. So yes, it was triggering, but I also tapped back in. It's like, you know what? They didn't walk out. They didn't leave the house. They didn't get in their car. They didn't say fuck you out and want to be with you. They just needed their space. And just like I'm doing this podcast right now, I need my space. Like, so I just had to just lay there and be like, you know what, this is not my story. What went wrong? What triggered you? And how can you overcome this, Marco? And I just had that conversation with myself. And
Nice.
you know, when we both woke up this morning, it was still regular routine. Good morning. How did you sleep? Like, you okay? We're gonna have a good day. And I was just like, you know what? It's okay for people in relationships to have separate spaces, but
Right.
it comes a problem when like you make it a problem. The person, like again, the person didn't leave the house. They're literally just upstairs.
Right.
So my bad. I just had to have that conversation with myself and just be like, you know what, it's okay. But look at it like use this fucking opportunity to do what you want to do by yourself since they want to have fucking time to themselves. Long story short.
Right. 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 So self-reflection. You
Right.
did self-reflection and just kind of looked at it from a third party's
Mm-hmm.
perspective of this is what's going on. This is what could have happened. That's not what happened. And let's use this time to focus on me. So those are all great ideas in how people cannot bleed on their new partner once they're triggered. So thanks for sharing that. And Victor, how about you? What are some things that you do to make sure that when you are triggered in a relationship that you don't bring previous pains and pay them forward to your new partner?
I just evaluate it. If it's something small, I'll just tell myself to let it go. Now, if it festers into something big, then I will address it. You know what I'm saying? I'll address it and just tell why I'm addressing it. You know what I'm saying? And call it a day. Is and also I have to remind myself that this is somebody new. This is not the old person. You know what I'm saying? This is not the idiot that let you go. You know what I'm saying?
So basically, what Marco said, kind of self evaluation, and then
hmm
communication. You said if it keeps
yeah,
happening, you're going to bring it up and have a discussion.
yeah. And you gotta, and some things, if it's really bugging you, you might want to address it then and there, because if you just let it slide, then it'll blow up.
Right,
May I
right.
add to that? And also, like,
Absolutely.
one thing I have learned in my new relationship is like, still voice your opinion, but it doesn't have to be a argumentative situation. Look, I just want to voice my opinion. This is how I feel, X, Y, and Z. I'm not mad. I'm not angry. I'm just letting you know how I feel. Let's continue on with our night, X, Y, and Z. Either they listen or they don't. But like Victor said, if it's a continuous thing, then it becomes a problem.
Right, right. And how about you, Nicole? How do you prevent yourself from bleeding on the new partner from previous wounds from a past relationship?
For me, I have to evaluate like, is this person triggering me, or is it an old wound that's being triggered? Like, is this person showing signs of not being faithful? Is this person showing signs of disrespect? Like, separate this person and the experience specific to this person versus this is just generally stuff that has bothered me because blah, blah, blah back there did it. So I
Right.
separate it.
Okay, and that again, it sounds like self-reflection and kind of just looking at it logically. And I'm co-signing with all of that because for me, I have to look at the situation without the emotional aspect. Like if I'm triggered, I will make it known that I'm triggered, but I'm not going to be able to have a discussion until that emotion calms down because otherwise I'm just talking out of emotion and we're not going to get anywhere. So I really have to pull back and say, all right, I'm pissed. Something has happened to piss me off. I need a moment. So when I have the conversation, I can do it intellectually. And let me tell you, I've done PowerPoint breakups, I've done video breakups, I've done PDF file, read file breakups. Like my
All right,
creativity is no
Michelle. PDF and PowerPoints.
I've seen proof of
PowerPoint.
it.
Michelle, you take this to the next. Is somebody
Right,
paying for this?
like, are you
Is
doing
this
this on
like
your
you
free
working for a
time?
job?
Like, what? This
He's
the
like,
creative
exhibit
side of you?
right where you fucked up.
Yep. I have the agenda, I have charts, I have all of it. Like there is no question on what happened and meet me downstairs at 8 p.m. So let's go over the presentation. Like so cuz I
Do
need to
you serve do
understand
you
that you
serve champagne and wine while they're sitting there listening?
As-
Do you have little snacks if
And
not the
do and
champagne and
can they
wine?
take notes too? Because at this point,
Oh yes,
like,
definitely.
Is there gonna be a
I
test at
need
the end of it?
the whole damn
she would
relationship
be
is a
highly
test.
well,
irritated if you took notes.
well,
You're not paying attention to the presentation if you're taking notes.
let me not
Oh
be
my
too shady
god.
because one thing I have done is I've recorded how I felt like audibly to like my one of my partners, and like I think they understood, but like, they was like, well, that was just a little weird because I thought you was in the room, but then you weren't really in the room. And then like all I could do was just stay in
I
the
feel so
room to
exposed,
listen.
Marco. I feel so
Oh.
exposed right now.
No,
I
no, no,
feel
no.
so
Like
exposed.
like I think it's a great thing. And I asked the person, I was like, well, how was it? They was like, it was a little weird. He was like, but it wasn't like a bad weird. It just took me a moment just to realize what you were saying and process
Be
it.
like,
So I was
I
like,
know episode 4, 5, 7, and 8 are about me. I know.
oh
Yes,
no,
sir. They about you.
they don't listen to my shit on purpose. And when I record, they are out the house.
Oh, got you. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
So
I'll
yeah,
record
this
in my
has been an
car if I have to.
amazing. Yeah, like absolutely. My other podcast, the first episodes were all about just processing that pain out. So yeah, if my ex fell into that, they'll be like, "Well, damn, every damn word's about me." Yes, sir, it is.
It was my mom actually did this to me one time. It was one of the guys only rounds we did, Marco. My mom was just like, "I just get a bad rep." Well, mom, I love you, but a lot of my pain came from my childhood, where you were in your 30s and you weren't the best person to be around.
And that's a conversation too. That's like a whole nother episode on how parental relationships impact connections and relationships. So just to kind of, we're coming to the end to wrap it up for individuals listening. What we've heard and learned is there is growth after trauma. You have to make the decision to make it that way. You either choose to be a victim to the pain or you choose to stand up and walk out of it. And then the way to not bleed on other people, have the communication, talk, look at it from another perspective, not taking it personal, being able to identify if it's a me problem or a you problem. Because if it's a you problem, then you need to address it. If it's a me problem, I need to address it. But if we don't, it's going to become a we issue. And now we have a bigger problem. So being able to identify, is this a me or a you issue? And then just being open to understanding that everybody's not your ex. Everybody's not your ex. And bleeding on the next person or paying pain forward can damage a connection or a relationship that could have been one of your best, but you didn't know how to receive it. So amazing feedback from everybody here. And I'm going to hand the mic back to Victor and Marco. Let the listeners know how to find you, when your episodes are coming out, and what's next for the next episode that's coming out. So I'm gonna throw it to Victor first, and then Marco.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can find me on Liquor Talk Podcast on Instagram, Ruby Jones on Twitter. You can find the podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts at. That's where you can find us. We're working on some episodes, got some features coming up, and also I'm gonna welcome you ladies back. I told Marco about this. The ladies are invading the guys on the round, and 2 of the 5 ladies invading are here.
Woo-woo!
So I'm looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to it too.
Me too.
Marco, go ahead and tell everybody how to find you, what projects you got coming up, and what your next episode look like.
Yo, what's up, world? It's Marco the Prince again, the host of Hear Me Out podcast. Thank you guys for listening. If you guys liked me on this episode, make sure you tune in to Hear Me Out podcast on all streaming platforms: Apple, iHeart, Spotify, Pandora, wherever you find your podcast, you can find me. And also make sure you got your cable bills paid, because you will see me across the screens sometime soon. Some NDAs, so I can't really I signed some NDAs, so I can't say the dates that they're released or the title of the shows, but there will be more of me. And make sure you follow me on my personal Instagram at Marco the Prince. That's MarcoDePrence. That's Instagram and Twitter.
Awesome, thank you. And
also, I forgot to mention something. Hey, me and my boys down here, we're working on something for Halloween. Your boy is gonna be in a scary movie, so
yes,
be on the lookout for that.
We just surrounded by all the actors. This is lovely.
Next time I'll send you my booking fee.
Oh, you're the second person who said that. I'm gonna have to start freaking a GoFundMe account for freaking Nicole, go ahead and give our listeners, everybody already knows how to find you, because you can check us out on our website and everything else. But if you have one thing to say to the listeners as it relates to growing past the pain, what would that takeaway be?
Let's see. Growing past the pain. I know in the moment of pain, it's like going through a storm, but just know, after every storm, there is lots of greenery and beautifulness to come after. So if you allow yourself to process whatever pain it will be, your next relationship although it will be another growth opportunity, it should be much better than the last.
Absolutely, absolutely. So as we come to our end, I just want to remind everybody.
Marco had something.
Do what?
Marco had something.
I
Oh,
want to
I'm sorry, Marco.
add something to that. I like that. What I do, I create an emotional ass playlist, and I just listen
Yes.
to it over
Woo! That's
and
me.
over and over until I'm like,
Marco, I
fuck all
think you're
these
my best
emotional
friend
ass
now.
songs. But like, I listen to it in the car, in the shower. Look, let me tell y'all a little trick. If you cry in the shower, you're not really crying because there's other water there with you.
Right.
If you get what
Right.
I'm saying, because it's all flowing
Right.
down. So, you know.
Marco, you're like my new bestie.
Yeah.
I literally have a playlist for every chapter of my life. Like I literally
I
have a
don't
playlist.
delete playlists. Why would I
Me
do
neither.
that?
Nope, I'll change the name, but I'll keep it moving
Sometimes
because I don't want
Yeah,
to
I don't
keep a
delete
song
playlists either.
attached to
But
it feeling. If I have a playlist that was attached to a certain individual, I have to detach because I don't want to mess that music. I don't want to listen to that song and think of that person. So I need to associate that song with somebody else or a different emotion because I don't want to have somebody steal that joy of that song away from me because I don't want to hear it because it reminds me of him. You know what I'm saying? So it's trying to detach
Mm.
that
I think I'm the
emotion.
only person that's never attached a music song to
no.
somebody. No,
I
fuck that. I'm
I'm
just enjoying
fun
my
fact.
music.
right there with
I'm attached to Drake. Feel No Ways.
Oh, Drake.
So for me, I'm like taking notes on this playlist stuff because I was one that did not want to feel it. So I was just strictly trap rap, gangster rap. What slow song for what? Get that off me,
Listen,
gross. I did not listen to that until like the last 2 years. I started feeling it. And now when I hear that music, it's like a love song to myself, not another person.
That's right.
But now I can start to heal it. I mean, ooh, did you hear that?
Feel
I can
it.
start to
Yes,
heal
I
it.
love it.
Ooh, that
Oh,
was a
I love
Freudian
it.
slip.
Yes.
Okay.
We are here for it.
I'll play like maybe one or two romantic songs, get out my feelings, and then I'm like, fuck you. Then I'm playing that Yo Gotti, fuck you. You know what I'm saying? Fuck them.
And the
You know
bitches
what?
that you
Yeah.
Fuck
came with.
themselves.
All the mustaches are drinking my shit. Sorry, my bad. Sorry.
Yes, Marco.
This is hilarious. I'm gonna have to add some of these songs to the playlist because speaking of playlists, check out the Rabbit Hole playlist on Spotify and Apple Music. Every episode, there are 7 songs loaded that go with the theme of the episode. So definitely check that out because music is a huge thing for me. You can look us up at our website. That's thelookingglass.fans, FANS, thelookingglass.fans. And you can obviously catch us on all the streaming platforms, our Instagram, the Looking Glass podcast, and we also have a Facebook group, Relationships Through the Looking Glass. So find us through the Looking Glass. And thanks again for listening for episode 12. Gratitude and to Marco and Victor for being with us. Hopefully the listeners got some information that they can utilize right now. And we look forward to connecting with you guys on episode 13. Take care, stay safe, be well.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you're looking for more of us or to check out some additional content, make sure you visit our Instagram at The Looking Glass Podcast or visit our YouTube at Relationships Through the Looking Glass. And if you like tunes and music, we also have playlists set up on Apple Music and Spotify under the Rabbit Hole playlist. Take care, be well, speak with you soon.